Welcome to more Murder at Castle Nathria mini set reveals. Dun 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 dun. This trial is heating up. We got Prosecutor Meltronics on the case. Demon Hunter Legendary. 4 mana 2/6 Demon. This is the third legendary revealed. This is the card you really should be looking at on whether or not you want to shell out the gold or the runestones for the mini set, or if you just want to open the packs for the commons and uncommons. Well, I mean, first of all, if you don't play Demon Hunter, you don't really care about this card. But what if you do play Demon Hunter? Is this a very disruptive card? Is this like Blade Master Akani, which was in all the decks? Or is this... 4 mana 2/6 Demon Legendary. Battlecry, your opponent can only play their left and rightmost cards on their next turn. It's actually pretty hard to tell whether or not this is going to be very disruptive or not disruptive at all, and probably depends on the metagame as well. It's way more disruptive against control decks. They have a big hand. Sometimes they have very big costing cards on their left hand, and then they just top decked a card which may or may not be relevant. If you're playing against a mid-rangey deck, you very well might just be playing a 4 mana 2/6 do nothing. So yeah, this card's going to be pretty dependent on the meta. Furthermore, this is the type of card that I believe like a tempo deck would want to play. Kind of similar to Okani wants to be played in a tempo deck. If you're a control deck and you play this, you don't really care that much that the opponent's limited. Ultimately, I don't really see a tempo Demon Hunter. That'd be like a face Demon Hunter wanting to slot in this card. It's such a specific card that you need in a specific deck against a specific meta. Theoretically, you want to play this before the opponent does their combo turn, but it's so hard to time. And who knows, combo decks might not even be in the meta. We got the Priest cards revealed. 2 of them have to do with the Theft Priest. We got Theft Accusation, 1 mana shadow spell, choose a minion, destroyed after you play a card copied from the opponent. I actually think this card is quite good. Theft Priest currently is nowhere near the radar of being anywhere near good. And while this card is extremely good for Theft Priest, it's 1 mana kill a guy. That's really good. This is not going to make Theft Priest a good deck. Like, Theft Priest is just lacking a good way to win the game. Another good card for Theft Priest, Incriminating Psychic, a 4 mana 2/6 dragon. This is actually quite good, because Theft Priest often runs Draconid Operative as well. So this is actually potentially Draconid Operative in the Shadowlands. Taunt, Death Rattle, copy a random card from your opponent's hand, 4 mana 2/6 dragon. This card is good stats for the cost, and provides a useful card from the opponent's hand. Honestly, these 2 cards are quite good, and if Theft Priest were a stronger deck, I could actually see these 2 cards boosting it up. I actually, looked at the stats of Theft Priest. It wasn't as bad as I had thought. Maybe, it's a big maybe. Maybe these cards are good enough to like push Theft Priest up to tier 2, low tier 2. I could see it. Where I think Incriminating Psychic will see the most impact will be Quest Priest. Would like a Taunt. Would like a 4 mana card, potentially. Maybe Quest Priest will run an Incriminating Psychic Draconid Operative package. Finally, for Priest, we have Clear Conscience. 3 mana, holy spell. Give a friendly minion +2/+3, and only you can target this with spells and hero powers. So that's kinda rough. Very large mana cost for the stats. +2/+3 you would expect to pay less than 2 mana for. How good is only you can target this with spells and hero powers? It's only impactful against control decks with removal spells. Doesn't impact minion versus minion combat at all. There are decks out there for Priest which want to buff cards. That would be Naga Priest, that would be Bless Priest. Bless Priest is currently not very good. Naga Priest, I'm not entirely sure if you can justify putting in a 3 mana +2/+3 spell. So I think this is a trap card for the buff priests out there. Yeah, it's pretty good at stopping the opponent from interacting with your big buff minion. But sometimes it doesn't stop them from interacting with it because they have non-targeted removal or they have minions. Bad buff for the stats. Warlock cards. This card reminds me that, okay, maybe in custom Hearthstone cards we're gonna stop docking points for name puns. Habeas Corpses. Hilariously named Warlock card. 3 mana shadow spell. Discover a friendly minion to resurrect and give it rush. It dies at the end of turn. I have no idea how they're going to translate this across the other languages, but okay, fine. Apparently English #1. Very interesting card. Best with theoretically death rattle stuff, which Warlock doesn't have that much of. I can't really see the deck that Habeas Corpses goes into. It is the type of card that would spawn a different deck archetype, which is really cool, but I don't see that deck archetype working at the moment. It's so far off that I don't even know the new deck archetype that would spawn, that would specifically spawn because of a Habeas Corpses card. Like, it'd have to do with Resurrection, which is exactly this card. It'd have to do with Death Rattles. Like, there seems to be a lot of better Warlock options out there. Arson Accusation, 2 mana fire spell. Choose a minion, destroy it after your hero takes damage. Now, the most obvious use of this would be in a control Warlock deck, where you just play Arson Accusation and then you tap. And for 4 mana, you've drawn a card, taken 2 damage, and kill the minion. Seems pretty good in control lock, but there's currently no real control lock decks, and yeah, there's a little bit of a curse deck out there, but I don't think they fit in this 4 mana kill a minion spell. Oh, interesting. I didn't actually realize that this card is better than I thought. Thank you to the chat for adding that. Even if you just put it on an enemy minion and they attack you with it, that minion will die because you'll take damage. So yeah, that's kind of better than I thought, but that was just basically like corruption. Most of the time it's going to be used for the 4 mana, you know, play it, tap. Some of the times it might be used as corruption. Overall, the card looks good, but the deck support for a control Warlock deck that has room to run Arson Accusation, I don't believe is here at the moment. While it is a good card, the card isn't so good that you would spawn a archetype of control Warlock because of it. But when Warlock gets a legitimate win condition, and you know, maybe that's quest lock, there's a few options here and there. When a control Warlock is decent, Arson Accusation will be a good card in that deck. I just don't think that right now there's a good control lock option. Imposter, 2 mana 1/1 demon. Battlecry, choose a friendly imp, transform into a copy of it. While you can buff up an imp with the Vile Library card and then copy it with Imposter, there are going to be times where Imposter is like a dead card in your hand where you're waiting for that perfect set of cards. The imp basics cards by themselves tend to not be cards that you want to copy because they're small cards. There is Dark Alley Pact, but currently there is no such Dark Alley Pact deck. And I don't believe one will come just because there's an imposter for you to copy the Dark Alley Pact imp. That looks like it would be a control Warlock deck, and maybe you can make an argument that, oh hey, you've got Imposter, you've got Arson Accusation, these are both good control decks. For a handlock deck, which you can use Dark Alley Pact and Imposter and Arson Accusation with, I don't see this though. And finally, we've got the rogue cards. Scribbling Stenographer, 6 mana 4/4. Rush, costs 1 less for each card you've played this turn. So this is intended for the Miracle Rogue style, where you play a bunch of cards, you play a giant Draka and you have a giant weapon, you summon a giant ghost with your graveyard, and then hey, now you can also add in 0 mana 4/4s. Is that what the Miracle Rogue needed? More play a lot of cards and then get a payoff card? Or is what Miracle Rogue needed like more survivability, taunt, healing, something for the turns where you're not playing multiple cards? The card doesn't seem insane enough that if it were good, which I'm not entirely sure if it is good or not, if it were good, I don't think that this boosts the Miracle Rogue style of play into that much more of a scarily good deck. Though, obviously, always gotta be careful when these 0 mana 4/4s with Rush come out in the game. This is the type of card that caused, you know, an entire archetype of Rogue to exist, where you would disguise yourself as another class so your Null could be played as 0 mana for 4/5 Rush. But there's a big difference between just drawing cards and eventually having your Null be 0 mana, or having to actively play cards in order to make Stenographer cost a low amount of mana. We conclude with a card that I'm personally actually pretty excited by. Perjury. 2 mana, secret, when your turn starts, discover and cast a secret from another class. This is a really good secret. I've always felt like the secret package looked pretty good, but it lacked across a number of different things. What Perjury does is it helps one of the lacks. It more consistently gets a secret in play that you can trigger off of, but also this guarantees you a secret for your next turn that you can trigger off of, like guaranteed. Yeah, just really good card for the Secret Rogue archetype. The thing that the Secret Rogue lacks the most right now is a win condition. Perjury doesn't help with that, but I gotta say, of all the cards revealed so far, this is like the surprise one, because Secret Rogue is really anywhere near a danger to being a top deck. And yet, I look at this card and it's like, yeah, it's good, but I don't think it's gonna make Secret Rogue a top deck. Sometimes cards just call out to you, right? And Perjury is one of those cards, and I'm like, I'm gonna try a Secret Rogue deck because Perjury exists. I could see running this alongside cards like Scuttlebutt, of all things. It's like, oh yeah, a Valley Rogue deck. Why am I trying this again? I don't know, but it calls to me. One of the big things that Perjury is actually really good at is Private Eye is really strong, and just the problem was there might not have been enough good secrets. Like, the Perjury is a good secret. I am, like, it's a surprise to call out a deck archetype that is nowhere near tier 3 even. This card could single-handedly push Rogue up some tiers. 2 more days of Castle Nathria mini set reveals to come. Looking forward to seeing what else lurks in the shadows.